So we always open and I go, hello, I'm Adam. And she says, I'm Tina. And we're Brewing Theatre. And we clink. So we can clink all three of us. And then we can be like, and today we have a special guest with us.
Great.
Mr. Bradley.
So you do Adam, I do me. And then let's just have him do it. I'm Brad.
Oh, okay.
Great.
And then we'll do, and we're Brewing Theatre.
Fabulous.
Okay. Hello, I'm Adam.
And I'm Tina.
And I'm Brad.
And we're Brewing Theatre. That was a three-way clink.
Hey, Brad!
Hi,
You're
Tina.
back!
We're so glad to have Bradley on the podcast today. And Bradley's coming home. This is sort of like a homecoming, which, by the way, the theme of our next season is going to be finding home. So this fits very well. Tell us, where have you been?
Yeah, I'm very happy to be back home. We were just talking about it's been 9 years since I've been here.
I can't believe that.
When we did Regrets Only, which was still one of my favorite plays.
Me too.
That monologue about being a rich white woman, it was so good. So good. Kathy did it so well.
I loved that set so much. I loved working on that with you.
It's great.
That was fun.
Yeah, so now since then I was in Chicago at that time, where I was like managing a theater and freelance designing and freelance directing. And then I moved to the Czech Republic for 2 years, where I worked for the Czech Ministry of Culture.
Was that on your bucket list?
It was not.
So you didn't get to go, Czech. I've been to the Czech Republic.
I'm never doing another one of these again. This is it. This is the last one.
No, it wasn't, but it was an experience. I worked for the Prague Quadrennial, which is the world's largest festival of theater, like performance design and space.
That's huge. That was a huge thing.
Yes. And you're dropping it like it's no big deal, but it's kind of a big deal.
It was, yeah. So I managed all the programming. So that we had 1,000 events in 10 days.
Stop.
Curated.
100 a day?
Yeah.
We don't
That
even
makes
have
me
100
tired.
hours a day. How did that happen?
A lot of Excel sheets.
I love Excel
A lot
sheets.
of spreadsheets.
They're my favorite.
And I was responsible for managing those Excel sheets. And we curated those 1,000 events from over 18,000 applications. So everything about
Goodness.
that PQ was the first time that everything at PQ was curated through an application. So there was no invite. There were 3 invited guests, like keynote speakers.
Sure.
But everything else was curated from an application, and that had never happened before.
Yeah, well, that speaks to how important this festival is. That you had a 1 in 18 chance of even being selected to participate.
Yeah.
So that's intimidating right there. And then if you got through, I mean, those folks must have just been.
I mean, yeah, I think they were. Yeah, and it's It was like, because there were, I think, 13 strands of programming. So we took over, so I worked for the artistic director, who was this amazing woman, Marketa Fantova, who was the first artist to lead that festival. So before then, it had always been an administrator, really.
Right.
Or somebody with like an arts management background or a kind of academic background.
Yes.
She was the first practicing kind of theatre designer to lead that festival. She did it for 2 years, two cycles. But yeah, there was an international curation team of like 13 or 14, I think, curators. And then there were all these strands. So we had a dance and architecture performance festival that was all about how those two things might intersect.
Love that.
You would have loved it.
I would. I love the dance.
This crazy Norwegian architect and a New York choreographer.
Oh my God. I would have
Working
squealed
together.
all the way through
It's
that.
wild. You're
And then-
literally designing the space to interact with
Well,
humans.
it was how architecture. So they were so we're kind of improv. Everybody brought kind of pre-made things, but then they were all shoved in a room, and they didn't know what else was happening at the same time on this giant plaza.
Wow.
So they would just see what happened.
Yep.
It was kind of this experiment of like, so maybe it was like an architectural thing that was being built while someone was trying to dance around it.
How creative.
Wow.
So with that, we had a site-specific festival, we had a student festival, we had a symposium, we took over an ice hockey rink, and 60 artists made a VR light projection, sound installation, touch sensory installation in there.
That's so cool. Did everybody have to wear ice skates to get involved?
No, it was dry.
Oh,
It was
okay,
dry.
okay.
Although
You took it over
there
and
were
kicked out the
pools
ice.
of water that you could interact with, and they caused sound to happen.
Wow.
Where do you go from there?
So then I moved to the UK, back to the UK, where I'd done my MA, where I'd been the last 6 years now, freelancing. I've done a lot of teaching at the Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama, which is the National Conservatoire there. And then I've just been appointed about 6 months ago as the resident designer at the National Arts Centre.
Wow.
Where I do a lot of work with community-based artists, and I do exhibitions and Christmas decorations, and I've designed a couple of shows there before. And I had previously, when they came out of COVID, so this is a huge building. It's 2,000-seat touring theatres where all the big musicals tour into.
Wow.
As well as lots of other spaces, and that's home to the Welsh National Opera and National Dance Company Wales and the National Youth Arts Organisation. Called the Earth, which I probably just mispronounced because it's a Welsh word and I'm terrible at it.
I was about to ask you if you'd learned any Welsh yet.
Only basic words.
Welsh is kind of tricky, huh?
It's really difficult. So coming out of COVID, what they did is they collected art from everyday people all over Wales.
Oh, I love that.
So they'd collected over 400 pieces of art, and I went in and I curated and installed them all over the building. Wow. So people got to go backstage, into tech booths, through all the front of house spaces, and kind of look at everything from photography to poetry, art, actual like sculptural pieces, kids' doodles. They turned this 5-year-old had done a drawing of a dragon, and they got some artists to make a 3-dimensional like life-size version of it, which was really cool.
You know, we have sort of a similar project here. Have you heard of the Monsters one that we do through the Arts Council, where they have local kids here will draw little monsters, and then they'll turn those over to artists, and they'll create these little bitty monsters, and you'll find them all over Tuscaloosa, like installed in little places, like little metal monsters.
We love
Monster
that.
Makeover, that's right. That's the
really
name
good.
of it. So,
No, I didn't
hey,
know about that.
we have some cool things here too.
Oh, all these cool things, the Tuscaloosa.
So I've known you forever. I mean, actually sort of watched you grow up, I guess, in some ways.
Mayma.
And I know they call me Mayma. And it just makes me so proud, but I'm also so appreciative of the fact that I can still woo you to come back and design for us.
Yes.
Because you love Theatre Tuscaloosa.
Well, tell us what brought you to Theatre Tuscaloosa originally, and how has it helped you as you've launched into the world?
Oh my God.
We like to lob the easy questions.
I was a precocious young person, shall we say.
Still are.
Rude. The tea is hot today, ladies and gentlemen. So I was an overachiever, and I did 2 undergraduate degrees at once.
Right. This sounds very on brand for you.
I do not recommend. Nobody do that. It's a terrible idea. It served me well, but it's a terrible idea. And Theatre Tuscaloosa, like several other places around us, I basically just rocked up and was like, I think I can help you. I think I can do something for you. What can I do for you? And I just basically refused to go away. So
and we loved having you.
Yeah, in my young days, I used to be the front of house manager, and I would work in the box office, and I would help with the at the time they were doing a lot of programming with young people, kind of high schoolers, prep for competitions and stuff, and we would do that. And I did some graphic design or just really whatever Tina said, or Jill or whoever at the time said, can you do this thing? And I'd be like, yeah, sure.
Right.
It was great.
I know you set up our first SurveyMonkey account.
Did I?
Yeah, because your name was on it. And I was like, I guess Brad set this up for us.
Oh my God. Who knew?
Brad, you're so smart.
Yes. Well,
I can't believe that.
It's weird to think that you could have had an impact that continues, almost 20 years later. But you did. You dived in, and that's such a great lesson for any young artist, any young person. If you want to get involved in a field, go get involved. Go walk up there and be like, I want to help. I want to be part of this, and we'll put you to work.
You did.
Well, and Brad would just come say, do you have an hour that I can pick your brain about something for class?
Right.
And I loved talking shop with him so much that, later on, when I got a chance to work with him as a designer, I just squealed through that whole process because it was so creative, such a creative time. And I do love working with you. So I'm sad that I'm not going to be the one directing this show, Scrooge, but Matt Davis gets to work with you. And you guys have worked together recently over at UA. So
yes. You've given Matt that gift.
Yes.
It's very generous of you, really.
Well, I just thought, you've been a good team in the past.
Yeah.
Might as well keep going.
We had a great time.
Well, and guess what? I've worked with Brad.
Oh
as
yeah,
a designer.
You've also. I
That's
just
right.
One of my first shows after I did my MA.
Yes, so that was my son Pinocchio Jr. Or was it
Pinocchio Jr.
Yes,
Yeah.
And you did a marvelous job on that
thank
show. I loved our set and all the little pieces that you designed for us. It made it so wonderful because that was my first full musical to direct, and I wanted people that I knew I could count on around me, And so when I found out you'd be available and willing to help me out, I just thought, okay, this is going to make this product so much better because I know I have Brad and I can rely on him. He's going to come up with something amazing, and sure enough, you did. So
It was fun.
I
That was a really
directed
fun little show.
nearly as many shows as Tina, but the fact that you were one of the people I got to work with is makes me happy.
That's fun.
You are a true Renaissance man. You studied with Andy and Bill Teague and lots of those great teachers over at UA, and then went on Ed. But you truly are a Renaissance. You're an Ed Williams in a lot of ways. Renaissance man. Ed could do just about anything if he put his mind to it. And that's what I love about you, is that you can think as a director, you can think as an actor, you can think as a designer, you can think as a writer, you can think as an artist, you can think as an architect. And that's one of the things I love about you, is that you come at things with so many different ideas and directions. And there are times that I'm just like, okay, hold on, I'm going to have to break all this.
Let me catch up.
I do get run away a bit, don't I?
Well, you're younger too, so that helps. My brain's like, hold on. But no, I love it. I love working with you. And so I'm
The
jealous.
mouse is spinning the wheel.
That's
We're
right.
catching up.
I'm jealous that you and Matt get to do the show together, but I can't wait to see it. And I know it'll be fun and creative. And it's a standard story of a Christmas Carol with a little twist. But
Right.
I can't wait to see what you guys come up with.
It's going to be really fun. I'm excited.
Well,
I
and
love a Christmas show.
It's so fun at a theater organization to take a show that we did 3 years running. We did a Christmas Carol, and it was very much Tina's Christmas Carol. She took the Great Room approach that is her signature. But it was the straight play version, the Romulus Linney adaptation. And now we're bringing it back, but now that Tina will have departed, a whole new take on it. This time it's the musical version, and this time it's going to be your vision. And so our audiences, while it will be something comforting and familiar, it also is something brand new that we can offer to our community. So I'm thrilled that you're going to be on this team. I think it's going to be great.
Great. I mean, it's such a such a great story, isn't it? And one that people love to see again and again. And it's that balance of like, well, I'm really excited to work with Matt on. It's like, what's the balance so that there's still something new and fresh and exciting, and something that makes people go, oh, that was something that I wasn't expecting, but in a really wonderful way. But also, like, what are the things that you don't mess with? It's like it's still got to feel like this story that we all know. It's still got to feel comforting, doesn't it? Like, people have paid to go see Christmas Carol,
Right.
So it needs to feel like they saw Christmas Carol at the end.
Yes.
Right.
We're going to make sure it does feel that way.
Yeah, I think that's what's, with all those, some of my favorite, designers and directors that I follow are the ones who kind of manage to do that really beautifully, don't they? They manage to balance that, like, something that still feels fresh and exciting, but also really honors the history of those really great stories that we tell again and again and again. It's
Absolutely.
Like peacemakers.
So we were talking over lunch about the future of theater and how these are a bit of scary times these days because funding is being pulled here and there. And I'd like you're in right in the middle of your career and done great things already. Tell me how you see things going in the future. How do you see theater sustain through some tough times?
That was an easy question.
I
I
thought
told
so.
you,
love that.
we just lob up
Just
the
so
easy
it was.
questions.
I mean, this
We
is
just want
like-
you to knock
This
them out
is
of the
why
park.
I love Brad, because he'll be like, "Here, let me tell you."
I mean, theater has lasted. I mean, we say theater's lasted for thousands of years. I mean, there was a big gap there.
Right.
The
Called the
old
Dark
Dark
Ages.
Ages.
Well, actually,
Yes.
yeah. Well, coming out. I mean, but theater was reborn in the dark age. I
Right.
did a production of the York Mystery Plays a couple of years ago. It was a big community project,
That's so cool.
which was really interesting because the first, what I learned through that is that the first person in Britain to be professionally credited and paid as a theater maker was a designer, because they were the only people paid on those projects.
Right. That's so often still true.
So I thought it was a really great fact. But yeah, so theater, I think people will return to the theater. I think what theater has to remember is why it's unique in all its ways.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I think that's about trying to figure out what we offer people that I think it's the same, the idea is like, oh, well, you go to see a live actor, and I think it's so much more than that, because actually, like, that kind of to me almost reduces an actor to like a sideshow. You know, if you're saying, oh, you go to be in a room with a live actor, well, like, you could do that anywhere. So why do we need to go to the theater? And I think that's about the way we tell those stories. I think it's about not trying to be television. Because you can't compete. Like
no, or film,
television or film. You know how you got to offer. You can't try to offer the same experience, but how do you offer a different one, which is even more impactful in its storytelling? How do we reach people to the point that they've got to get off their sofa and come into town, and see a play? And I think that is what theater has to remember. Why this like communal and like I said, across in the writing of it, in the design, in the direction, in the experience around going to the theater. How do we create something that's really a communal and a community experience to get people in the theater again? Because people have to care about the theater and like why it's important against, and the amount they spend on, I can remember, because a lot of really big television is made in Cardiff where I live, and a lot of my friends work on really big budget television shows. And I can remember, pre-Game of Thrones, when the 5 million on an episode of TV was considered like this astronomical
outrageous
sum. And now most big budget TV shows are averaging like 10, 11, 12 million.
Right.
And you just think we can't do that. We've got to remember and really use those assets. Really, I was saying to Tina over lunch, like one thing I've become really interested in is this idea of like, what is collaboration and what does it really mean to collaborate with people, and to really think about the resources that you've got and how you're applying those in the best way that don't run everyone in the ground. Because I think in theater often now we work harder, not smarter. We try to do something that we can't really manage. Right. And actually what we need to do is like really think about how we do all that. How do we tell an amazing story in a way that also takes care of all the people in the room? Right. Well, that's what we're losing. We're losing the theater artists. Yeah. At least in the UK, we're having, and I suspect some of and I've got lots of friends in the US who are leaving theater because it's just not sustainable, isn't it? As a career, right. Sometimes the best people I mean, I'll never forget. I mean, of the 4 people when I did my grad degree from undergrad, I went to an amazing place for my grad degree, and I felt really blessed to go start at UA with Andy, and then to go to the Royal Welsh College where I finished my degree. And even like the first years on that course, the freshmen who were designers, you were like, these people are amazing. And I'll never forget, all the MAs, we went to see a showing of first year work, and there was a girl in there, and I will never forget, we all were like, we quit. Her work was so stunning. We quit. It was the most beautiful things this day I have ever seen. And it worked, not just as a beautiful thing, but as like that play. Yeah. And she doesn't even do it anymore. Wow. And there's so many of those people that I remember that in my life I've met who are young designers who I thought that person will be the greatest designer of my generation or theatre maker, and they don't, because they've found something else they're equally passionate about. And I think that's what we've got to work on as an industry, is we've got to figure out how we retain those people. Right. It can't just be a who lasts the longest.
I agree.
And that can't be it.
I agree.
Tina, Shirley, this is such an appropriate moment for that.
So appropriate, because I love that. I still feel 20 something. My body doesn't, but my mind does. And but I know it's time for me to move aside. But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to create. I'm about to move into a different place in my career. I will still be creative. I may do more acting than directing. I don't know. We'll see. But you cannot stifle the creative desire. You just can't do it. But sometimes people take that creativeness and go put it in something else. But what we've got to do is continue to keep saying, let's support these people that are choosing to do the arts, and let's continue to help them make a living doing it, because it's hard. It's hard to make a living in this industry, but it is so fulfilling, and I'm excited about the next phase. But I'm also excited not to just be on the sidelines watching. I'm still going to be creative. I'm just not going to have to be in charge of being creative. But I'm excited about you guys and your generation and where you're going to take it. And that's why that question came up for me, is because it really is in your hands. What happens in the next 20 years is going to be based on how can we sustain the passion for it, and continue to be creative on a shoestring. And then when we're given a lot of money. How do we use it wisely?
Right.
And how can we spread the love? So and I love that you're doing things outside of Alabama. But I'm hoping someday you'll bring it back to Alabama. I
Well,
don't know
we
if you'll
love
ever
it when
come
you
back.
do come back, and even if we have to work remotely, we love working with
Yeah,
you.
my
and
mother looks forward to my return as well.
I'm
always,
sure.
always.
I'm sure that your mother would love it.
Has it been real hard for her since you've been in Cardiff? And
I mean, yeah, she doesn't love that I live on the other side of the world.
right.
And to be fair to her, when I moved back, so I did my MA, I was gone for 2 years. When I moved back then, she was like, okay, you can live anywhere in the US. You cannot, I have to be able to drive. I have to be able to drive to get to you. And I was like,
see.
yeah, okay, fine. Because I really didn't think I would ever move back to Europe. And then that job at the PQ in Prague came up, and I didn't even, I mean, that was again a job that they sought me out because they were looking for somebody who had a really good administrative background, who really understood artists, because they wanted somebody who was going to work with all these artists, understand their needs and what they needed and how to advocate for them. And also somebody who is an English language first language speaker, which was a very particular field. There wasn't that many people, I don't think. So then it just seemed like it was too interesting of an opportunity to go like, oh, I'm not going to do that. And then I've just kind of been on that path. Because I had done so I was familiar with PQ because I designed the British pavilion although we don't really like to call them pavilions anymore, but I think that's the best word for it, in 2015. So they kind of knew that I could deal with some of those big, that had 50 designers work in it. So that was everybody from Bob Crowley and Ez Devlin and Paul Brown and all these really, all the way down to people who had just graduated, who had made some really amazing site-specific work. So it was a big, we had the opening ceremonies of the Paralympics in that. We had stuff from the Royal Opera House. We had stuff from Asia. We had, these massive things. We had Michael Sheen's Passion, which was in Portabo, where they took over the whole town for 3 days. We had the design for that, which was really amazing. So just getting also to work with all those artists and to get to talk to them about their work and how we presented their work and how we were going to talk about their work was like, it was such a great first moment. And then to be asked to do that on a much bigger scale with artists in from all over the world was like, it just felt like it was something that you had to do.
You couldn't turn that down.
You couldn't say no.
No way.
And she
You're
was
like,
very,
Mom, no.
yeah, I'm going. So, and that was, so I think she's continuously like, are you sure? Can you come home now? Is there somewhere here?
We'll keep bringing you a little bit at a time.
Yeah, so
As
I think
much
she
as we
loved
can.
When I did the UA show and I was here for 8 weeks.
Yes.
So I came and I stayed the whole 8 weeks. I was doing some guest teaching and really working with all the students, and that was a really amazing thing.
Yeah.
But that was like, she was like, oh, you're home. It's fine. It's great.
Well, I couldn't be more proud. I'm not your mom, but I feel like I'm your second mom, and I couldn't be more proud than the work that you are doing and will continue to do. I'm excited that you're going to be coming back home to Tuscaloosa to work with us again and to work with Matt again on another project. And so I will not be your boss, but I will be your biggest fan. And you can come stay at my house if you want. So
Tina's B&B.
Tina's bed and bathroom.
There's no breakfast.
Right. It's just bed and bathroom.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Maybe Ernie will make you a muffin if you're nice.
So, Brad, thank you so much for being with us today. It was great to visit with you. I can't wait to see what you and Matt come up with for Scrooge and what the future holds for you. It's just been a joy to have you around today, and I can't wait till we do it again.
Thank you for having me on the Brewing of the Theater.
Well, until next time, I'm Adam.
I'm Tina.
I've been Brad.
And we're Brewing Theatre.
Cheers.
Cheers.